Welcome to Nitpicking Nerds. Today we're doing something because you asked us to.
It's the Battle for Baldur's Gate Commander Set Review.
I'm your host, Joe Cherries.
I'm your host, BZ, joined by Amber, and that makes us the Nitpicking Nerds. All three of us work tirelessly, evenly too, to bring you daily Commander content. If you want to support us like Amber has, you can go to patreon.com. There's people scrolling right now.
Yes, and the patron of the day is DJ Bison. Thanks for your direct support, DJ Bison.
Pretty sure it's Bison. It's two S's.
Bison? It looks like Bison, and I'm going to go with Bison.
Looks like Bison with an extra S. Also, if you want to support us indirectly, TCG Player, there's an affiliate link in the description. You start there, and you can even bookmark this link, so that happens all the time. But any of our Nitpicking Nerds affiliate links, you buy cards you're normally going to buy anyway, check out, and then you're supporting us indirectly with someone else's money.
Yes, and we appreciate that greatly. All you have to do is start with our link. You can also do that with Dragon Shields. They have the best sleeves in the multiverse.
Good sleeves.
Literally our favorite sleeves. We use them on every single one of our decks. But if you use our affiliate link, you get the same sleeve, same price, but they get sent to your house, and we get a kickback.
They will still get sent to your house, even if you don't use the affiliate link.
Yeah, but you get all that. You don't spend an extra $1, and the nerds get supported. How awesome is that?
Sponsored by best website ever for deck building, Moxfield. Will you be able to predict where the ad is? You can try right now.
No.
But you'll never will. And we have a special extra 7th announcement. What is that?
Well, you missed birthday. Happy birthday to everyone whose birthday is today.
That was the special one, but actually we have another super special one.
Yeah, do the other thing, yeah.
Yeah, it's actually a Twitter giveaway, so if you don't follow us on Twitter, maybe now's a great time to go do that because there's this tweet that is on screen. If you retweet it, you're entered to win one of 3 super saucy promos. They're going to be 3 different winners, so retweet, and then you get added to the list, and then we'll randomly pick somebody Thursday the 16th, a week from now.
A week from now, we will pick
Actually,
the
6 days from now.
The winner of those 3 cards. Make sure you're following us on Twitter. Make sure you retweet that, and make sure that you
keep watching because the video's starting.
Yeah, let's go! Okay, today we're doing our set review for Battle for Baldur's Gate. Now, usually we go over every single rare and mythic and the notable commons and uncommons. Today, we're skipping out on the cards that are just not exciting. They're not even splashy, and we don't think some people might care about them, but very few people. We're sticking to the cards that are like, obviously people want to know, what do we think of them? Like, for example, let's just, I'll pop it up on screen. It's the Ancient Gold Dragon. We're going over this, even though it's not a great card in Commander. It's big, it's flashy, and everyone wants to know what we think of it, BZ.
Yeah, there's a lot of obvious cards that are terrible, but they go into one deck and they're pretty good, and I just don't see much of a point in repeating that over and over. So we're going to try this more streamlined version of a lot of the relevant cards are going to pop up in multiple decks. We can get started with Ancient Gold Dragon.
Well, before that, we have to go over what our grades mean. A, best cards in the format, staples of the format that you will see in all sorts of decks all over the places. B, more of build around. Still some of the best cards in the format, but they tend to require more building around. These can also be generic cards that aren't quite A's. C's, these are your middle of the road cards. Every deck has a few C's in them. I mean, you can't avoid having C's. It's very rare that a deck won't have C's, but they're not the best cards, but they're still good in certain decks. D's, playable in the format, very niche usually, and you need a big reason to be playing them. In F's, we suggest never playing that card because it's bad. I want to say everything C- and up, I would consider a good Commander card. A card I think some decks will actively want at some points.
Yeah, so we can finally get started with all this stuff out of the way. With Ancient Gold Dragon, it's gigantic. If it hits somebody, you roll a d20, and you get that many dragon fairy creature tokens with flying. So there's a cycle of these, and the connections are all pretty good, but what hangs up these cards is they're all like 6, 7, 8 mana, and they don't have haste, so you got to untap with them or give them haste or something. This one, I think the main payoff for hitting is going to be I have Scourge of Valkus or Dragon Tempest in play, and I win the game on the spot, which is pretty sweet.
I mean, those both are really strong things, but I want to say this is a white dragon, so you have to be in 5-color dragons.
Or 2-color.
Well, red-white
you just need red-white.
Oh, that's fair, but red-white's isn't really a dragon build, is what I mean.
I mean, I guess you don't even really need that. You could just play Dragon Tempest and then this, and it kind of just, that's all you need.
That's fair. I mean, that's not unfair, but it feels like you want to be in 5-color dragons. Is what?
Sure, yeah, that's also a very popular deck.
It is because of the Ur Dragon and Scion of the Ur Dragon. I think this card's about a C-. It's pretty weak overall. The fact that you need to play it, untap a turn, and then connect with it and then roll at least a little bit favorably because
At least a 5.
because if you start rolling 2s and 3s, you're going to get screwed. But hey, that's the risk of this card. The card is big, splashy, and fun, but not great.
Yeah, so C-. Next, we got Archivist of Ogma. There's actually not that much to say about this amazing card. Whenever they're searching their library, you draw a card and you gain a life. I mean, that is just a lot of words.
This card. I mean, it's not. It's actually very few words, but that's not the point. They're very important words and very good words.
Right. This is clearly one of the best cards in the set. White, absolute staple. I don't know if it's an A+, but it's definitely at least an A.
Yeah, exactly. It's definitely an A. There's lots of searching going on in Commander. As you go up in power/money, you will see more fetch lands. You will see more, tutors, and because of that, it's just going to add up to this card being extremely powerful.
Next, we got another one of the best cards of the set. It's Ascend from Avernus. X, white. You get back all your creatures and planeswalkers from your graveyard to the battlefield. Mana cost X or less. Big, splashy, late game card, but it can just dominate and take over.
Yeah, this is a B or B-. It's somewhere in that range. It's a very good card for specific decks. I really like that it doesn't matter how many things you have in your graveyard. If you have 10 really good things that all cost 2 mana, boom, cast this for 5. Get every single one of them back from your graveyard to the battlefield. It's big. It's splashy. It's a game winner. Obviously, it's the bad card early game. You don't want to be drawing this on turns, probably 1 through 5. That's not very good on those turns, but into the later game, it's going to be a very strong card.
Yeah, especially in your non-black decks where you're going to be able to mass reanimate, have a haste enabler in play, or in your graveyard that you get back, and then just go to town.
Up next, we got Battle Angels of Tyr. This is a 4/4 flyer with Myriad, so that when you attack, you're going to be attacking each of your opponents. Then whenever you hit the opponent with the most cards in hand, you draw a card. The most life, you gain 3 life, and the most lands, you get a treasure token. I honestly think this card might be doing just enough to be good. Now, I gave it a C- because me and BZ were kind of on different sides of the fences here. I'm more up near like C+, B- range, where I think this card might actually be something that can perform in certain metas. You're attacking for 12 every single time. It's a lot of damage to throw out. This is only a 4-mana body. Is it great? I don't know. But it just might be, and I think it is worth testing.
I think it scales pretty well for beatdown decks and battle cruiser metas. I don't think this is like the best card for higher power. I don't think you're getting much, especially since if you're winning on all those, you don't get anything, and this is a vanilla. And that's possible, certainly. And I'm also going to say the 3 life feels like flavor text because you're hitting them for 4. Then if they're at the highest life total, even higher than you're getting 3. That's like nothing to me.
Yeah, so I'm more up on like the C+ range. BZ's more down here in the C- range. But, I kind of definitely want to test and see where it ends up.
C's are all playable. I think they're also mostly cuttable, so we'll see where it ends up, I guess. A Horn of Valhalla, you're either making a bunch of soldiers, or you're having equipment that will then beef up the soldiers you made, or whatever creatures you have, based on your creature count. This is so weird, because we're starting to get a lot of token makers. It's not like we have Secure the Wastes back in 2015 and nothing else. We got a bunch of options now. So I don't know if this cracks the list of top 5 playable token makers.
It's very interesting. It's like, obviously we want some of these sorcery, some of these things. X spells. We have March of the Multitudes, Grand Crescendo, Secure the Waste, and now this.
Call the Coppercoats.
Call the Coppercoats. These are like the 4 like big, easy ways to just make a ton of tokens. That's actually 5. 5 ways to make a ton of tokens. And how many do we need? I'm not sure. This one is one of the weakest of them. I don't think the Horn is a very powerful card. It's fine.
Does it push me far enough, basically, to make the sorcery speed X generator worth it? Because obviously sorcery is worse than any instant version.
Exactly. So I think all the instant versions you're playing before this, I don't think the Horn is something to draw you to the card. I gave this card a C, but I don't know. It could be down in the D range, depending. It's really not a card I'm excited about. I think it's a strong card in limited, but
it feels like a C competing with a bunch of Bs. So you're just never going to see it, and it's also fine.
Yeah, that's completely fair. What's next?
It's Laizells Acrobatics. D+ on this one. You're basically getting an overcosted Eerie Interlude, but maybe a little bit more than half the time, or sometimes you're going to get double Eerie Interlude. I think I'd rather just have Eerie Interlude because that's the effect I know that I want. Plus, there's some corner cases where I don't want to flicker all my creatures. That might or might not happen. I think I feel safer with the always 3 mana versus 4 mana, and sometimes you get a nice bonus.
Yeah, I think this card total D+. It's just not a card I'm going to very often.
Harder to hold up 4 mana than 3.
Yeah, every subsequent mana you have to hold up is really, really hard to do. We talk about it with counter spells all the time, where the difference between a 1 and a 2 mana counter spell is astronomical.
Yes.
Same thing with holding up something like this, and it's even more niche because counter spells, it's like they have to cast a spell. This is like they have to cast a board wipe if you want to cast it.
Or maybe you could just fire it off like offensively to get more triggers, but we have other ways to do that. What about Legion Loyalty?
Legion Loyalty gives all your creatures Myriad for 8 mana. Pretty simple design, pretty
cool.
Beefy and cool, but ultimately I think it's not very strong. And the main reason for that is this is 8 mana. Now, obviously, it's going to be backbreaking in a lot of games, and you're going to see it do a lot of work sometimes. Like, you're going to play this card, and you're going to go attack, get like 7 ETBs, and be super happy, just pop off, and feel great about it. But on that same note, you have to wait the whole game. It takes forever, and you have to have an already set up board state. And this isn't like an overrun effect. This isn't giving you trample, which is going to guarantee that you get through. It just gives you the attacks at everybody. Is this card good? Maybe. And maybe the fact that you get all the ETBs multiple times is enough to push this to like a low C. But right now I just have it at a D.
Yeah, you really need a board state. A lot of haymakers are haymakers because you can just slam them at any point and catch up. Not with this one. You need to be ahead.
Yeah, exactly. You need a big board that you already want to be attacking with, and then you can attack everybody. Next, we have Sculpted Sunburst. This is a C. It's a board wipe. You pick one of your creatures, then everyone has to pick a creature with power the same or less than that, and everyone gets to keep that creature. It's fine.
It's no tragic arrogance, that's for sure.
It's totally fine.
This just blends in with every other white board wipe.
I think it's
a C.
I see. I think it's going to be a C minus, though, because it's like I don't feel like many decks are going this one. It's not a bad card. The 5 mana board wipes are all sort of playable if you get a little upside, and this has the little upside. So C minus, I think, where I'm at with this one.
It's another good card that you'll just never see because we're playing Tragic Arrogance and like Vanquish the Horde and all that stuff above it. Let's go to Deep Gnome Terramancer. Whew! When they play lands, that's great and nothing happens. But when they put lands in play, we get to just go get a land. We don't have to be behind. We don't have to be sad. We just go get a plains. It doesn't even have to be a basic. This is an A.
Somebody pointed out a really cute interaction. You can play Flicker Wisp on their land. And then you get something off of your Deep Gnome Terramancer. Okay, I mean, it's random. It's not that great, but Flicker Wisp is a playable card.
Could move the needle to me just putting Flicker Wisp in my Flicker deck.
It's like, yeah, exactly. It's like just a random little interaction that is pretty good. Deep Gnome Terramancer is just another staple of the format, just like
You'll see it all the time.
Yeah,
every white deck.
Yeah, you're going to see it in all the white decks, especially in higher power, where we're going to see tons of fetch lands again, because this card is good against fetch lands.
Stick together. This is a board wipe, and you're never going to play it. Unless you're a party deck, then you get to keep a full party. But even then, hopefully you're not going too wide because you still lose most of your stuff. So I guess you want a party, kill everything else.
Yeah, this one's a C. I mean, it's very, 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 very specific, and you're never... This is one that, unless you're playing the party deck, you're never going to see it. It doesn't work in any deck except the party deck, but it's really, really good in the party deck.
One of the problems you're still going to see is that Warrior and Wizard are like two of the most popular types, so you're just randomly not going to hit things, and it's going to feel bad.
That is true. Sometimes that will happen. It definitely will feel bad.
Next one we had to talk about, because it's you cut a deal. It's 2 and a white. Each opponent draws a card, and you're going to draw 1 for each, so you're basically going to draw 3 every time. For 3 mana, somebody had mentioned, I think in the comments, I guess, free shout out if you did, but they said you would start the game at 9 cards if each opponent started at 8 cards. And I don't even know if that's true, maybe, but even if starting at 9 with them starting at 8 is advantageous, I don't want to be the person who has to spend 3 mana to introduce that effect. It's the same deal with like coercion. I could pay 3 mana, and I would theoretically want each player to start at 6 cards with certain decks, but not if I have to pay 3 mana to do it.
It's interesting. I actually don't know. There's got to be a point in that logic that isn't true. Where
I think I need more cards.
Well, if it's better if everybody starts at 99 cards or 99 cards and you start at 100, is that advantageous? I don't know if it's advantageous.
It has to be no.
It sounds like it's disadvantageous, so I don't know where the logic follows or where it stops.
I really don't want to give my opponents cards when I'm not hard up for card draw anymore.
It's exactly. We're in white and we have tons of ways to draw cards. Most of it's creature based, but hey, it's totally fine. I'm fine with doing that. Something like Archivist is just 100 times better than this. We're the ones spending mana, and that's where the issue comes in. 3 cards for 3 mana, yes, good rate. definitely a rate that you would pay on a card.
Yeah, they never calculate that. It's always like this white card, like Secret Rendezvous was the same way. It's like, hey, you're giving out the same as you're getting. It's like, and you're at a mana disadvantage. Why am I getting punished
Except
for playing this group hug card?
Yeah, but even worse, you're giving out 3 cards. You're getting 3 cards. You're spending a card. So you're getting 2 cards.
2 cards. Everybody else gets 1. It's just none of the math works out. I mean, we wanted to talk about this one because we think it's an F.
An easy F. I don't think you should ever play this card.
As the guys on Squandered Resources say quite often, the F this card.
F that card. That's our.
They never stop saying that.
We've been saying that slogan for years, actually.
For years.
Next, we're moving on to blue cards. We got Ancient Silver Dragon. 8 mana. When it hits, you get to go ahead and roll a d20 and draw equal to the result, and you have no maximum hand size for the rest of the game. This one's a C. It's better than the last one. If you can actually get through the hit, I think this is more of a can you sneak it through somehow kind of card. It's not great, but I think specifically something like a Tetsuya Umezawa deck is going to love this card where you can just go, all right, 4 mana, here's a dragon.
I mean, the blue and the black ones definitely get a little bit of edge in terms of how often they'll actually connect over like the white and the green ones. Like what are you doing with those? You know, you got to give them haste or trample or something, but some of these blue and black ones will just fit into decks already with no problem and they'll connect a lot.
Yeah, so Ancient Silver Dragon, a solid card if you can sneak it through reliably, but that's not a lot of decks.
Don't just slam this and say, just you wait until I do something next turn.
Yeah, you don't want to be spending 8 mana and then casting this. That's not where you want to be.
Seems like a C.
Yes. Next, Displacer Kitten, A+. This is the best card in the entire set. It has 1,000,001 combos, and on top of having combos, it's a value engine that's unmatched by any card in the set.
Yeah, I don't really want to tread too much ground again with this. We did praise this card extensively in our top 10 cards of the set video. It was number 1, no question. This thing combos. It is hard to kill because it can flicker itself. And when I see this thing, I just go, I'm going to be going, hey, do we have a board wipe? Because we're going to lose.
Yeah, Displacer Kitten it needs to go away. You can't let it stay on the board.
It might rule 0 itself out of the format. It's so good.
Yeah, but but honestly, I think in lower power games, the card's going to be just good and not broken. Like if people aren't playing combos with it, it's just going to be like, hey, it's a really good card.
I think it's hard not to play loops or combos with this, honestly.
For me, it doesn't feel that hard, right? Not that it's impossible or it's not impossible, but it's just like you can do some sort of loops, but it feels like it's avoidable at some extent. But maybe I'm wrong. Up next is our Meister Simulacrum, and it got a D. This is 6 mana instant. You get a copy of something each opponent controls. It's fine. We're way too reliant on our opponents here, and because of that, it's just an easy D. We're getting a decent amount out of this, but it's only as good as what our opponents have. It's 6 mana. That's a lot. It's okay. It's not great, though.
This is weird because I feel like this card actually doesn't gain a lot from being an instant. Like on my turn, my opponents are more likely to be tapped out, and that's kind of when I want to get this because it targets, so you don't know if they're going to be flickering or doing some shenanigans. Obviously, I'm not worried about them sacrificing the creature in response because if this said destroy, it's like, okay, that's not the worst thing. But what deck is relying on what their opponents are playing? Yeah. How am I supposed to advance my game plan?
Yeah, I agree with you completely. The card is not a bad card by any stretch of the imagination, but it's one that's just outdone in the format by a ton of different cards.
You probably need like token generators, token doublers or something.
Yeah, maybe an Ajax and Neve deck is where this goes, where it kind of makes a little sense there.
Moving on to Font of Magic, 3 and a blue. Your spells, instant sorceries cost 1 less for each time you cast a commander. So what you probably want to do with this little C+ gem is pack some partners in your deck.
You want this is like a Quark Sakashima random
that sounds
card.
Very fun. Or like Thrasios and Crom, another fun duo.
I mean, I'm not sure about this card. It seems good if you have partners. It seems like a C+. I don't actually know how good this card is because it feels like it's so niche you're never going to see it.
People play Jace's Sanctum. I think this blows that card out of the water in terms of how good it actually is. So I hope to see it because I think Spellslinger decks might actually be interested in it. If you can play this on a later turn and have, all of a sudden, 3 less. If I cast 4 or 5 spells, I'm now gaining 15 mana off. It's kind of think of it like a late game mega ritual.
Yeah, which is completely fair. It seems pretty good. Next, we have Gal's Redirection. It's one of my favorite cards from the set. 5 mana counter spell that roll a d20 and add the mana value of the card. If it is 1 through 14, you can cast it. You can spend mana as though it were mana of any color. And if it is 15 plus, you can cast it without paying its mana cost. I love this card. I really do. I think the card is a great design. I think it's really cool. That being said, it's a D. 5 mana counter spells. Overall, not the best counter spells you're going to be able to get. So it's pretty weak, and I mean, I'm willing to admit that, obviously.
Yeah,
but I'm putting it in my deck.
Yeah, it feels fairly similar to like a control magic. You know, I could spend 5 mana to steal a creature, not even have to worry about it being on the stack, but we're not interested in that.
Yeah, it's a fine card. It's a totally fine card that you just don't need very often.
Find a way to abuse it or care about it. I don't think you just want to play this. Ithlid Harvester, I'm pretty sure that's how it's pronounced. You're going to be tapping creatures down, and then presumably on your next turn, you play the real thing from its adventure, and you turn them face down as 2/2s. I don't think either half is really where you want to be, and combining them doesn't get there fully for me. I don't want to play like Icy Blast or whatever that card's called, and I don't really. Why would I just not play Ixlid or whatever that card is that just flips everything down already?
Yeah, this is a D, maybe a D minus. It feels
very niche.
It feels like there's almost no decks for this card at all.
Yeah.
Tomb of Horrors Adventure, very interesting. Enters, you take the initiative. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, copy it. And if you've completed a dungeon, you do it twice. This card is awesome. And I really think it is pretty good. It's like a C, middle of the road. Not a lot of decks are going to want it. It is 6 mana. This is a lot. But if you get to like actually start doing this, whoa.
Second spell, period, right? So like creatures are copied.
Creatures are copied.
Artifacts are copied.
Anything. Any second spell, no matter. So if you have a big turn later in the game, you go this into anything. It just doesn't really matter. Boom, it's copied. Doesn't matter. A Soul Ring is even like going to be incredible.
And unlike a lot of the cards that say take the initiative or venture into the dungeon, I don't even care. I mean, if you're doing that, great. This card's just even better, and it might just blow people up as soon as it hits the battlefield. But I already get the cool effect right away, and I don't really need to adventure any further. So probably what this is going to be is 6 mana Pilgrim's Eye, and also great card.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the initiative is a powerful thing to introduce into the game, and if you're the deck that can sneak through and continually take it, it is something you want to actively be doing.
Yeah, it's hard to do it because most of the cards are way below rate.
That's true. That is very.
This
true.
is like one of the only ones that isn't.
Yeah, I mean, well, it is kind of below rate. It's like 6 mana.
Yeah, but the effect is it's a powerful card versus like 4 mana 1/4 flyer.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, the commons are obviously underrated. Next, we have Wizards of Thay. It is a D. It is a 3 mana thing with Myriad, or 4 mana thing with Myriad, and it says your spells, your instant sorceries cost 1 less. So when you attack, you Myriad, you get 3 of them.
And your sorceries have flash?
Yeah, and your sorceries have flash. I'm not sure what to even think about this card. Is there potentially a lot of spots for it? I don't know.
We're gonna be putting this one in Cube, and then we're gonna be testing it out in that arena. I think that you're going to be able to sneak this through because any removal you have, you're going to hold up because it's going to cost cheaper. Then you just remove the blockers that are going to get in your way, and the original connects. Then you kind of can just do the same thing next turn.
As long as you can make sure one doesn't die in attack, then you're fine because now you can just cast the sorceries you wanted to in the instance in combat and get the 3 reduction, which is a lot.
It's a lot.
It is quite a big reduction. So yeah, I don't know. I think this is just a D. I'm not super excited about it, but I don't hate it.
It's classic, not a spell in your spells deck.
Now this next card I actually think has some potential, but BZ doesn't like it. It's Aboleth Spawn, and we graded it a D+, but I would give it more of a C, personally. So whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your opponent's control, the ETBs, you copy the ETBs and you get them.
But it is only of the actual card that enters, right? So like if they trigger, Guardian Project, you don't get that.
Yeah, that's true, but I just think getting all of the ETBs is a pretty powerful thing. Overall, is the card broken? Absolutely not. It's a medium card. But I think at 3 mana and having some ward that protects it will make you actually get something out of this card.
Yeah, we'll see if it's closer to Fairy Artisans or if it's closer to like those crafty cutpurse cards that we never play.
Yeah, I think it's closer to the Fairy Artisans, but obviously worse.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Artificer class is next. It's 1 blue for enchantment. You can level it up to draw a card, and the ultimate level on it copies your artifacts and end step. But the real thing it mostly does is reduce your first artifact by 1. So it'll gradually pay itself back. You can use the mana you save to draw a card that's going to be an artifact, and I think this just seems solid. It is awkwardly not an artifact, but it does kind of represent one because it finds one, so it just looks like a C.
Yeah, I'm not sure about this card. When I look at this card, I see something I almost never want to play, but BZ's a fan, so we give it a C. It seems
tentatively looks good on paper. We'll see about it in reality.
Yeah,
thank you.
For me, it just feels like easy D, like where it doesn't really do enough, and it's not an artifact in my artifact deck.
Yeah, we got Astral Dragon next, as Amber just is touching my chest. It is an 8 mana thing that turns 2 non-creature permanents into 3/3 creatures. For me, this cost just does not need to be 8. That's so much that I feel like I'll never be able to even experiment with this goofy card.
Well, it makes copies of them. It doesn't
Yeah, you
just
like
turn
get
them into...
permanent versions that are 3/3s, but I just like, how am I ever going to get to experiment with it when it's 8 mana?
There's a dream to be lived. There's some really cool things that when you turn them into creatures can do special things. But yeah, like you said, 8 mana is overcosted for this effect. It's cool, it's unique, but sometimes you're going to copy a Smothering Tide and you're going to copy.
You're gonna copy someone's Haste Enabler of Fires of Yavimaya, right? And then you're gonna copy somebody else's Legion Loyalty, and then you're gonna attack with your dragon right away, and you're gonna copy 4 more things.
I guess you could do that.
But of course.
I mean, that seems really good.
You know what? Let's just set up residence in Magical Christmas Land and say that's the move.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's a totally fine card. It's not bad, but it's just not great.
Yeah, Mocking Doppelganger, I think we thought was better initially, but it only copies your opponent's creatures. So again, I ask,
Clone.
What am I doing?
Clone for your opponent's creatures is not good. It's not what we want to be.
Stunt double, same card.
All right, moving on to black. We have Ancient Brass Dragon. This is the black one that has flying, and when it hits, we roll a d20 and reanimate creatures with mana value that adds up to whatever the result was. So we gave this one a B-. I think so far this is the best of the dragons we've talked about. It's pretty strong. It's pretty solid, but it suffers from the same exact thing as before, where this is a 7 mana spell that you have to untap with, connect with, and then roll out with.
I think black gets a little bit of a bonus because you can reanimate this, so potentially it can be out much sooner than turn 7 or turn 5. Mm-hmm. I mean, like turn 3, I'd be actually pretty scared of this, especially if you're self-milling.
Yeah, that's completely fair. I mean, I like the dragon. I think it does quite a bit, but obviously the overcosted nature of it is what's keeping it lower on this grade.
Clunky mythics are clunky.
Yeah, and speaking of clunky mythics, we have Blood Money.
It's a rare.
7. It's a mythic.
It's a mythic rare.
It's a mythic rare.
Of course.
7 mana, destroy all creatures. For each non-token creature destroyed, you get a treasure. Just a B-.
Tapped treasure.
Yes, I was just going to say that. The treasures come in tapped. This card's up in like the B+ range if we're talking about untapped treasures. But once you untap with those treasures, you will get a great reward from this card. It's going to be very, very large. But sometimes you can't wait that long to play a board wipe. Nonetheless, still a strong board wipe, just a little clunky.
Going to depend on synergy. What does Call to the Void do?
This is a weird one. This is 5 mana, and you choose a creature you control and you don't control. And then everyone does that. And then all the creatures chosen this way, they're chosen secretly, get destroyed. It's a fun little mini game, and I think it's like a C-, maybe more of a D+. It's definitely not a strong card. But oh boy, is it a fun and cool little game to play.
I love the mind games. I think it's going to be your classic below average board wipe that some decks can take super crazy advantage of, so C-.
Yeah, exactly. It's a C-, D+. It's weak, but extremely fun.
This looks so fun.
Very good design. Next, Elder Brain. When you attack somebody with this big 5/5 chonker.
6/6, even chonkier.
Yeah, this 6/6 chonker, they exile their whole hand, and you can cast them, and you can play everything from it. Obviously playing mana of any color, whatever. The usual for these kind of effects, and then they draw that many. It's fine, but I think it's like a D. It really, again, it's slow. You need to attack with it. You don't need to connect with it, which is a huge upside to this card.
Yes.
But you don't know what you're getting.
It does basically just say, when it attacks, you draw like 6 cards.
Yeah,
but they're not cards that synergize with your deck.
No, they're random cards from your opponent's deck. If you're playing with your opponent's deck, which I have that kind of deck. So in that kind of deck, it's good. Other than that, just avoid it.
Now we mentioned Displacer Kitten being the best card in the set. It's got to be tough, close competition with our next one, Moxfield.com. The problem with Displacer Kitten is it costs money. Moxfield.com is actually just free. You can just use it whenever you want, wherever you want. It's mobile. It's on desktop. You organize your collection. You organize your decks, and you build everything in a streamlined, efficient manner because this is an amazing deck-building tool, and they sponsor the channel.
Yes, it's extremely easy to use, so go there, build all of your decks on Moxfield, share them with your friends. This is literally the best way to share deck list online because you can, once you build your deck, give your friend that link, and it just takes them to this great visual display that you can just see every single card. It's chef's kiss.
Truly an oasis in a desert of subpar deck-building websites.
Yes. Next, we have Eldritch Pack. 7 mana. Target player draws equal to the number of cards in their graveyard and loses that much life as well. Big, splashy, bad.
It's like maybe it's gigantic if the game plays out in a weird way. might not even be that good.
Yeah,
it feels like very peer into the abyssy.
Yeah, I think this one is a D-. At least peer to the abyss has the potential of like
it's guaranteed
ritual and doing it early game that there's potential there. That potential does not exist.
It's harder to fill your graveyard than it is to just cast peer to the abyss. It already says you draw half your deck.
Yeah, exactly. So Eldritch just gets a D-. Maybe you have a home for it, but most likely you don't.
All right, Ravenloft Adventure is another initiative card, but the real line of text, the only one that really matters, because the last mode is so minor it hurts, is when their opponent's creatures die, they get exiled. There's a couple of different ways to do this, and to me, this seems like one of the weaker ways, but it is worth mentioning because some people will only have access to this one, and I think it's probably playable.
Something I think about this card is that, again, I think if you're in some sort of deck that can consistently get the initiative with little sneaky flyers or little sneaky unblockable guys, this might be one of the better versions of the card for that kind of deck. Now, that's a very niche deck. That's not like the most common deck. But if you're doing that, I think that this is going to be the one that you want that like will prevent graveyard shenanigans from your opponent.
Gotta say, kind of sick of these. We got Kalidas, Gisa, Dothy Voidwalker. We got this thing now, and I'm pretty sure Anafenza, and there's probably more that I'm missing. It's like, we get it.
Yeah,
exile things with an upside. We get it.
They do exist, quite a few of them. D+, maybe a C-. You can find a home for it.
Next is Black Market Connections, a card that I remember Joe Cherry's misreading in the beginning. It triggers on your pre-combat main phase to either pay 1 life, make a treasure, pay 2 life, draw a card, or pay 3 life, make a 3/2 changeling, and it's 3 mana. This feels like it's worse than Phyrexian Arena. A lot of people were saying this is like the death knell for Phyrexian Arena, and I'm like, I don't know. I think people seem to think this triggers on your post-combat main. You don't get one right away.
Yeah, I don't think this card is very good at all. Again, wait the whole turn. This starts being a lot of life. 3 life for a treasure and a card seems quite pricey to me.
The 3/2, I don't think we're talking about that because that's not happening.
That doesn't feel like it's worth it. 3 mana for a 3/2 changeling?
Or 3 life, yeah.
That doesn't feel very good. I think specifically in life gain decks that can overcome this life loss, sure, maybe there's something here. Other than that, I'm off this card.
Doesn't jump off the page.
It's like a C- to me. It's not awful. It has some homes, but I certainly know I'm not putting this in any of my decks.
Yeah, we don't like Phyrexian Arena at all. And this seems about on that level. The treasure is the only thing that's different, but it seems offset by the fact that cards cost you more life.
Yeah, exactly. It's so much life. 3 life. I mean, what I want out of this card is I want the treasure and I want the card. The card.
Like you need that to make this card functional.
Yeah, so that's 3 life. That's so much life it's probably fine if you're more of a combo meta, maybe, but then again, it's still pretty slow. You still have to wait a whole turn. I don't know. I just don't like this card. Next, Brainstealer Dragon. 7 mana, big old flyer, and at the beginning of your end step, you exile the top card of everyone's library, and you can, play those.
Gonti them. I don't know what to say. We need a shorthand for that.
Mana of any color. It really should have a shorthand for something. You steal it. I don't know. Whatever. Somebody give us a shorthand. Somebody keyword that ability.
Keyword Gonti.
Keyword the Gonti, the top card of the library. But also, whenever a non-land permanent enters the battlefield under your control that another player owns, they lose life equal to its mana cost. I think this is like a C-. It's not super good. It's not broken. It's not busted. But if you're in the steal your stuff kind of deck, this card is like a real finisher. It's like they actually gave a finisher to the, play your opponent's card deck.
I would say outside of that, I'm not looking to play this card. I would maybe give it like a D or even an F with the caveat that it's great in the player stuff deck. It's just so much mana, and it's kind of like draw 3 cards when it enters. I just think the next line is not going to offset the fact that I had to spend a whole turn on this and then wait.
I think there's no world of this is an F. An F is a card that you should basically never play almost over any circumstances. That's not what this is at all. It certainly isn't even close. I mean, I'm being honest. Like, with our grading system, we don't give out Fs. This isn't even close to that, and I think if you're thinking that, you're vastly mistaken.
I said D or F, my friend.
Well, I'm saying it's not. I think it's unmistakably not an F. All right, last but not least, for the black cards, we got Uchulan, which is a weird card, but I really like it and I wanted to talk about it. It is like this little creature whose power is equal to all the weird types it is. It's so weird.
And it clones itself.
It clones itself by exiling a creature from an opponent's graveyard at the end step. It's not like this card is great, but I think it's a card I want to try somewhere because it's really funky. It's such a
hard to remove, right? You got to think a board wipe kills it, but not much else because it clones, so the token will also copy itself.
Yeah, it's like you get 1 at the end step, then you get 4. It's like until creatures are eventually out of graveyards and you don't get any more of them. But even in that case, I'll start using my removal to get more of them.
It seems playable. It's a D, but it seems cool, and I wonder where I can even try it. Let's go to red, which means Ancient Copper Dragon. B, this card is the best of the Dragon Cycle. Not really that close, because for some reason they gave it like pretty much the best trigger, and it makes the least amount of mana. Red, also the color that gives haste the easiest. So you're going to be cheating this thing out, no problem. Making some treasure tokens on your D20 roll. Seems like a B.
Yeah, weird. People were saying we were too low on this, but it's like, we ranked it the 6th best card in the set.
Right.
Like, it has infinite combos. It's a strong card. It is slow, though. I don't know how.
Right. Undeniably, this is a 6-mana dragon.
Weird.
You need to give haste or something.
It's a strange thing to have to defend that this card is slow. 6-mana cards, 6-mana creatures that don't have haste are slow. I think that's just, it's a fair thing to say. Now, that doesn't mean the card's not good. Doesn't mean it's not playable.
It's better than Grave Titan.
But it's still a slow card, right? Like, I just think it's undeniably slow. That being said, it's still strong. It's still a B. It's still a great card for certain decks. It still has infinite combos. I'm still happy to play it in certain lists.
Not something I'm playing in any deck. This feels like Treasures and Dragons, mostly. There's some other
combos,
other scenario combo decks, but I think if you're just gonna put this in like your Boros Beatdown deck, you might just be better off with something else.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I agree with you 100% on that. Next,
how about Baldur?
Baldur, this one it's like a 5/5 flyer, and you give your opponent's choices when it attacks or dies.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. This is not a bad card. You give out things that are overall negative to each opponent. That being said,
where does this go?
Exactly. It doesn't feel like this has a real home. If maybe some like,
there's that Jumpstart Devil that wants this, but like where else?
Yeah, exactly. So it's a fine card, but it's just like a D+. You're probably not playing this card overall, but you might be able to find a home for it somewhere.
Right. El Turel Survivors, they just gave Coastline Marauders an extra toughness and Myriad, so you don't have to sacrifice it, and you don't have to worry about putting it in the graveyard, and it's got all the same text, so it gets +X+O or X as their lands. Coastline Marauders has overperformed. That's a card that is like not unplayable at all. So we're going to start out with a C on this one.
I want to say something. The big difference between 3 and 4 toughness, I think, is a huge benchmark in Commander. I think that there is a lot of easy to like trade off 3 power things. But 4 starts to feel a little tough to trade with just one creature. And when this thing has 6 or 7 power, you probably have to trade off multiple creatures with it. And that's when it gets troublesome. It has trample. It is tough to block. I just think this card might be strong. I want to try and build this Boros Beatdown deck that's playing this and the Angels
and Life of the Party.
I want to play all these cards. I gotta find the home for them.
I don't know. This I want to bully somebody because I'm going to take out their blockers and hit them with it so that I can untap and hit everybody again.
Yeah, exactly. And everyone's getting one of these. It's coming at every single person. We
don't pick favorites here.
You're not really bowling. Yeah, exactly.
Well, I meant like you're going to make sure somebody's not blocking. They're taking the full brunt of it.
Yeah, that's very true. Or you just kill the creature that blocked it.
Exactly. Storm King's Thunder, what a nonsense card. You're copying a spell X times for X, red. This is like the slowest thing ever, but it's not like it's not going to end games, because if you're copying like, I don't know, Time Warp or some kind of Comet Storm, I don't even know, you could copy Storm King's Thunder after you cast it and then cast something else for double the copies. Classic D, right? It's classic. You got to be doing your deck's thing to the max, but then you're going to close out games with it.
Yeah, exactly. It's really, really silly and over the top, and it's not your first go-to Storm payoff.
No.
Probably not even your 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, or 10th, but maybe at 11.
It is one. It is a Storm payoff.
It is definitely a Storm payoff. Maybe the 11th one you go to after you've run out. It's cool, though. It's one of the biggest and splashiest ones, and, we've got, like, 1,000-Year Storm, obviously. Some of the ones that, like, copy every spell you cast. They're really, really silly. But then we also have this, which is, copying X times. If you have a reduction of like 6, you can do something like over the top, like that nobody's going to see coming.
This was the logical conclusion of them starting to be like, hey, teach by example or whatever from Strixhaven. The Foretell Dual Strike from Kaldheim. They're like, let's just keep doing it. And then here's the timmiest possible version of it. Wrathful Red Dragon, 5-mana 5/5 flyer. Your dragons are Boros Reckoners, but they hit non-dragons when they take damage.
Yeah, this makes it so your dragons can't be blocked very well.
5-mana 5/5 flyer with just a bunch of good text on it?
Yeah, this is just a good dragon, and I think it mostly goes in dragon decks, obviously, yes. Very, very obviously, but I think it's a B-. It's just super solid for your dragon decks. It's I want 5 mana and less dragons is when I'm like, okay, this is something I can play a little bit earlier in the game because most dragons are 6, 7, 8, 9. They're so expensive.
And not only does this make your dragons immune from damage board wipes, turns your damage board wipes into combo kills. I don't have to attack you. Or maybe I will. But post-combat, Blasphemous Act, you're dead. Take like 70.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, you have an answer for my dragon? You don't? Okay, it's over. Because this dragon is going to now dish out 100 plus damage.
Yeah, really cool like side mode on that. What about Bothersome Quasit?
This is the one that goads when you cast a non-creature spell. Goaded creatures can't block. Just a little 3/2 for 3.
The fact that this sticks and comes out early, it's literally going to be bothersome.
Yeah, exactly. It's just going to be there, and just every single non-creature spell you cast for the rest of the game is just going to goad, which is going to protect you and dwindle away at your opponent's life totals.
This feels like a Cambal. It's just going to stick out. Not really going to die that often, but just dish out a bunch of damage.
Yeah, exactly.
Always be like the third best thing in play.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be super annoying. It's like you're like going to cast... You're going to cast your non-creature spell. You're going to be like, yep, I'll goad your...
You're just like, ugh.
6 feet. Or I'll goad that utility creature that you don't want to attack with.
Right. Plus, once you do it, do they want to kill it? Because it's already done. The thing's already goaded. It doesn't stop it by killing this, so maybe the removal spell ends up somewhere else. Seems pretty good. Death Kiss. What does that do?
All right, so whenever one of your opponents attacks another one of your opponents, you're going to double that creature's power. It's a big, beefy, 6 mana, 5/5, but then you can monstrous it for later in the game for basically just tossing all your mana and goad everything you want to goad.
Treat it like a duelist's heritage. Obviously, this is way worse than that card because it's 3 mana. It's stickier. It's an enchantment, and it just straight up double strikes. But this is going to mess with people, and it's hard to pass up 10 damage over 5. It's like, well, I do want to attack you, but I get 10 damage if I send it somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just going to deal a bunch of damage to your opponents.
Yeah, I'd say C-. This is not a broken or busted card. It's a little clunky, but it'll get the job done in some cases. Up next, Delayed Blast Fireball, B+. 3 mana, deal 2 damage to each of your opponents and each creature you control, but it has foretell, so you pay 2, exile it, then on a subsequent turn, you can go ahead and pay 6 mana to deal 5 to everything, but if it's cast from exile, it does that 5 either way, meaning if you have a deck like Lelia, which is going to exile it all the time, or Prosper, or the new girl who Faldorn, I believe her name is.
Yeah, this is going to end up making decks where you're going to mostly play the foretell and play it a little bit clunkier and get the solid Plague Wind effect, but then they just have Jessica's Will in their deck, or they have some other effects. Like, maybe they throw in Reckless Impulse on a tiebreaker, and all of a sudden, sometimes this is a 3 mana, just wreck your whole life. You never saw it coming. The fact that it's an instant is only making it better.
Yeah, this card is very, very strong. And like you said, even the fallback case of the 8 mana instant speed Plague Wind is not a bad card at all, especially because you get to go 2 mana into 6 mana, which is a lot better than just paying the 8 up front.
Or the 3 mana Get Off My Back, Pyroclasm.
Yeah.
And an instant speed.
Yeah, and instant speed. It's a bunch of different little things that add up to a pretty strong card. I mean, this is one of the top 5 cards from the set. It was number 4, I believe, on our list.
Indeed.
Really, really good. I'm a big fan of it.
Nelfishni, whatever. This weird thing that makes me uncomfortable to look at wants you to cast spells from exile, and it copies them, and if it's a creature, it gains haste, correct?
It gains haste, but you sacrifice it
Yes.
at the end of the turn. This card is just good. I mean,
clearly, you know where this is going. This is not a staple. We know where this goes.
Yeah, it's not a staple at all. It goes in exactly your casting stuff from exile decks. The commanders I just listed for Delayed Blast Fireball. We're back for this card. Very, very strong. I mean, doubling every single spell you cast from exile is just going to be an incredible effect. You're going to get permanents.
This card's just a little expensive mana-wise.
It is, exactly, yeah, and it has to be. I think this effect has to be on the overcosted body because if you make it the 3
1 mana 1/1.
the 3 mana Quasit, I think this card's way too good.
All right, Spectacular Showdown is going to put a double strike counter and goad something, but if you overload it for 7, it does it to everything. So you got a whole turn off. Every opponent's going to just be murdering each other because they have to. But this card has no text if the board is empty or the board isn't really favorable for you.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a slow card, but I think it's pretty good overall. It's going to put an end to games. It's going to make your opponents really just trade off a ton of creatures forcibly, and they're not going to want to do that. And it's going to leave you with a bunch of creatures with double strike because you're not going to be attacked for that whole turn cycle, so it's going to be super advantageous for you.
And it probably just kills the player to your left. They're going to be the one who has to unload everything first, left with no defenses. So who are the other 2 people going to attack? The one with blockers or the one without?
Yeah, it's going to be a very, very strong card. B-, solid card. Certain decks want it. Next, Wild Magic Surge, red, destroy target permanent. Then they reveal from the top of the library until they reveal something that shares a permanent type with it. Once they hit it, they put that one onto the battlefield. I don't know what to think of this. It seems fine. Mono red specifically, having a second answer to enchantments feels like an actual decent spot to be.
Maybe this is a mono red or Boros. Maybe not even Boros. Mono red card.
Yeah.
Like this might just be mono red only, C- in those decks because you're not actually really removing it. You're just replacing it and kind of crossing your fingers. It might be a get out of jail of like, I have to destroy this enchantment. I can't live if it's out. Hope the next one isn't that bad.
Yeah, and usually it's not. So, I mean, usually the next thing on their deck is probably not as bad as what you're answering, but it could be. So C-, it seems rough, but it could be decent.
Problem is, if I'm hitting an artifact or a land, I have no worries. It's like they're just going to hit some brick. It doesn't matter. Even creatures, they can hit mana dorks. But enchantments are all cards with like a bunch of text. There's no like cantrip enchantment or enchantment that just taps for mana. They're all doing stuff.
Yeah. Next, we have Ancient Bronze Dragon. D+. It's another one of the big giant flyers.
The worst one?
It might be. It very well might be. It definitely is the worst one. It's distinctively the worst one. You put counters. It makes big threats. But what's really slow about this is you go, play it. Okay, pass. All right, untap, hit. Okay, if you can hit. You sneak through the hit. All right.
Just wait until my next turn.
And now I put counters on. And now on my next turn, I have bigger threats.
I have to wait again for this. It's just like the ultimate just you wait card. These dragons are kind of supposed to be the thing that puts away the game, not the thing that creates something else that will later put away the game. Oh, man. Not a huge fan.
I think it's like a D+. It's the weakest of the dragons by far. This one is the worst game ender. It's the slowest of all of these. Is it horrible? No, I don't think it's horrible, but I definitely think it is distinctively slower than every other dragon. I think D is just solidly the grade it gets.
Yeah, Earthquake Dragon, you got to be dragons. Dragon Tribal only, and in there it's a C- because this thing won't cost 15 mana. It'll cost 6 mana? You got to have a board state, though. Yeah, exactly.
It's interesting because it counts mana cost. It seems fine. I'm honestly not sure what to think of this card. Mana cost means you have to spend, a ton of mana on dragons. Then this costs less.
I do like the recursion text.
It does have recursion text, but that's usually relevant after board wipes. But then you want to have dragons in the field, so it's like it's tough. I mean, I'm not saying this card's bad, but I'm not sure about it. Let's just give it a C-.
Could be an Dragon like All-Star or something.
Actually, this next card might actually be good in Dragon. It's Majestic Grounds. I think it's an F overall. It's a card that you should almost never play. But if you're specifically playing Dragon, where things are ridiculously overcosted and your commander costs 9 mana already, all right, maybe we're in a spot where it's like
flip the top 9, get ideally 7 permanents into play, and you feel pretty good about yourself. But this is just so hard to control. If your commander costs 5 or less, I would say just leave this at home anyway.
I think if your commander costs 8 or less, you leave this. I mean,
you just we're comparing this to like the Great Aurora and Primal Surge.
That's what I'm saying. It's too much. I really think this card is an F and should generally be avoided at almost all costs. There might be a home or two somewhere hiding out there, but honestly, almost all decks you're going to come to me with, I'm not going to suggest you put Majestic Grounds in.
You probably have to build a deck to play this, not play this in a deck.
And actually, this next one, I gave a D-, but I think it's actually an F. It's Owlbear Cub. Again, I don't know where you're supposed to play this card. What are we doing here? This
isn't cheating anything into play any better than any other card.
And you have to have 8 lands in play. It has to be out of the battlefield, and it has to attack. It's a 3 mana 3/3. It's not doing anything until that point. Too slow, too clunky. It's
very cute.
Very cute. Yes, it is. It is a little Owlbear Cub.
Next is maybe the most baffling card that from this entire set. It's Green Slimes. 2 and a green, 2/2 flash. It's got Foretell for a green, so you can pay 3 mana in installments or just all at once. ETB. Counter an activated or triggered ability from an artifact or enchantment, and then if you get to counter something like that, which hopefully you do, you destroy the source of it. So like if they trigger Smothering Tithe on my draw step, boom, flash out the green slime and destroy it. Except, why wouldn't I just destroy it, right? It only hits artifacts and enchantments. You have to wait for some trigger. It doesn't work on anything without a trigger, and green is by far the best color at destroying artifacts and enchantments, whether it be creatures or instants.
Yeah, I literally do not know what is going on with this green slime card. I think this card stinks. I think
it's a cool reference to something, but I don't think it's good in Commander.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is an F. I think this card's really, really bad, and I really don't see why you want to be playing this card.
I would struggle to see an argument for this card over any other one of the good, top 15 naturalizes that we play. This doesn't do anything else. It's you have to wait.
Agreed with you completely. I don't see the point in adding in this little counter to get slightly more. It just doesn't seem worth it, right?
No, I really have no idea what we're playing this in.
Yeah, nice is Tlin Kali Hunter C+. This guy is a big overcosted, like 7/7.
Has to be.
But it does. Your first spellcast from exile costs 0, and you can pay 3, exile a card from your graveyard, and you can cast it until the end of turn.
Yeah, you can really like tee yourself up with some kind of impulse draw thing the previous turn and then just go ham sandwich. This thing's really expensive though, so it's the C+.
Yeah, exactly. It's expensive. It only goes probably in like a few
That
decks.
red-green deck.
It's niche, but I think it has homes.
Yep. Let's go to Draconic Muralists. I wanted to mention this one because it's a green tutor and we don't get a lot of those. When it dies, you search for a dragon. So you got to be dragons and you got to be at least somewhat sure that this is going to die, or maybe you're just okay with 3 mana delayed tutor and like an Urg Dragon deck or something. But it seems like a D+. I think some decks are going to be really happy that this exists. Most other players are going to forget entirely.
Yeah, I'm not sure how good this card is. It's weird because like I could say yes, Urg Dragon, but it's like other than maybe specifically an Urg Dragon deck, this card seems bad to me. Bad rate, slow,
It's certainly niche.
But it is a dragon. Yeah, D+ just feels like a fine grade. All right, let's wrap this up.
Artifacts lands.
Artifacts lands. We have Nautilus ship. Comes in, exiles graveyards. When you hit with it, you get one of those things exiled. No, thank you.
Slow vehicle. What's my incentive?
Exactly. Way too slow. Very cool. Very awesome design card, but just overall bad.
It's a limited bomb, but it's a commander flop. D-. Vexing Puzzle Box. This is a really cool one. It's just if it's right at the like C- range. It's like totally non-offensive. You can play it. It'll be good sometimes. Roll 100 numbers on a die total, and you get to go search for an artifact and just put it in play.
Cool. I mean, if you're playing specifically an artifact deck, maybe you have a sub theme of rolling dice. Sure, then go with this.
What really works with this is copying it, because now if you've got 2 running, you can really just start churning out those artifacts.
Yeah, that's very true. It's a weird card, and it's C-. It's super niche. Like this is one that's outshined because there's a million better mana rocks, but in some specific decks, this will be the go-to mana rock.
It'll just be my Manalith Plus, and watch out because it's going to end the game if you don't answer it.
Also, here, this next one, also a mana rock that's outshined by a million mana rocks, but if you're playing an adventure deck and you're going...
Initiative.
Adventure. You're going through the dungeon.
And venture deck.
If you're playing a venture into the dungeon deck, that's what I meant to say, then this tome will be good. It says... take the initiative 4 mana. It taps for 1 mana, but if you have the initiative, it taps for 2 mana.
Which you do right away.
And if you've completed a dungeon, pay 3, look at the top 3, exile 1, and you can cast it without paying its mana cost. I mean, it's a good payoff for actually completing a dungeon.
So take Hedron Archive out of your dungeon deck and put this in, and everybody who can't do that exact thing, hey, just ignore what I just said.
Yeah, exactly. It's dungeons and initiative. Nothing else.
Right,
Literally nothing else. And last but not least, Baldur's Gate. It makes mana equal to the number of gates you have.
Cabal coffers for gates?
It literally does Cabal coffers for gates, but it's like a C. I mean, it's
because gates are bad and they
all
enter tap.
gates enter tap, though.
If you have the one that enters makes them enter untap, now we're talking.
I don't know. It's just, I mean, again, it's just gates not a really strong thing. But hey, if you're in the gates deck, you got Baldur's Gate.
But here's the thing, though. This is going to be like if Cabal coffers was a swamp, I would be extremely annoyed because it's like every game. Against the gates deck, this is guaranteed in play. There's a ton of ramp that searches up gates. This is just a gate. So like Circuitous Route just goes and gets this in a gate and you're like, uh-oh, they got a bunch of mana now.
Yeah, that's totally fair. So this is the actual set review for Commander. Like this is what we think about the cards in the actual Commander format, not limited. But if you want to check out what we think of these cards in limited, we did the rare and mythic set review for those cards. You can go check out all those, and we talk about them to an extent just like this.
And if you forgot about our giveaway, go and retweet that post before you forget again.
All right. Peace out, Tribe Scouts.